Now, we've heard about young carers, but what you might not realise is that some are as young as 4. Charities in the south are reporting a dramatic rise in the number of very young children who are having to help out with tasks like cooking and cleaning. There are a number of reasons behind the rise, but what is clear is that support services, whether it's councils, the NHS or charities, are being put under greater strain. Chrissy Sturt has been to meet one very young carer from Bournemouth.
Hello, my name's Zoe and I'm 6 years old. I look after my brother and dad.
Zoe is a little girl who has what charities call a surrogate mummy role at home. Most of her dad's time is taken up caring for her brother, who has severe autism.
She had to learn at a young age to help me, and she does washing up and that, because I've got to concentrate more of my time on Ryan than I do, unfortunately, with Zoe.
She knows how to prepare a simple meal. Opening up the oven and turning it on is all second nature to her.
I don't want to get burned.
Most parents would keep their children away from hazards like this, but Zoe knows how to boil a kettle. She's also in charge of the washing and drying. Zoe does these tasks before school, after school and every weekend. These young carers have come to Honeypot House in the New Forest for a break. It's a novelty to have a meal cooked for them. Today, their only job is to be children. Charities in this area say they're seeing a dramatic rise in the number of very young children in these sorts of roles. Over the last 4 years, Honeypot Children's Charity has seen a 4-fold increase in the referrals of the very young. That's children under the age of 8 who are in caring roles at home. This evening at Honeypot House, there are children as young as 5.
I think people are unaware that there's young carers at the age of 12, 13, 14. I think the thought of a young carer being 5 years old is just unbelievable to most people. I find it quite shocking, really, when you look at all the case studies, but it absolutely does happen.
So at what point do social services intervene in these cases?
The difficulty comes where the burden of caring, particularly for a child, becomes so great that their own welfare is endangered. So if a child, for example, is not able to go to school because they're frightened to leave perhaps a mother who's got mental health issues or a father with alcoholism, that's when, we have to try and find ways to help. But our priority would always be to try and keep the family together.
Zoe is lucky that she's been identified as a very young carer. It's something that her school in Boscombe is seeing a lot more of.
Very often we see children who come in and they're struggling to maintain their personal hygiene, their cleanliness, their uniform, etc. They may be a little bit hungry, they haven't thought about feeding themselves. It may be that they're tired. When I started in this role, we didn't have a young carers group. And over the last few years, particularly the last 4 or 5 years, we have seen an increase. So at the moment we've got 11 and now 12 young carers within our 2 schools.
Zoe has plenty of support at school and from the charity Honeypot, but there are very many young carers who no one knows about and no one is helping. Chrissy Sturt, BBC South Today.
Well, I'm joined now by the Children's Commissioner, Anne Longfield. Anne, how shocked are you that so many children, some as young as 4 or 5 or 6, are actually carers?
Well, the number of children who are taking caring roles has been increasing over the last decade, but the average age has traditionally been around 12, and the fact that now we're seeing children as young as 4 and 5 is indeed shocking. And of course, as your report said, when children are carrying such responsibility in the family, not only are they having to undertake really very complex household tasks, but also they're missing out on that essential childhood themselves. So it is very concerning.
Action for Children and the Children's Society say that government cuts are actually making life more difficult for child carers. Do you agree with that?
Well, certainly I think there's 2 things that are potentially driving this. One is that well, three things. One is that more carers are coming forward and being identified, which is a good thing. But secondly, that actually we know that more families are struggling to get help, and we know that carers are more likely to be on very low income. So it does seem within this that actually there is less help around, so families and indeed children are stepping in.
So
and then the other part...
And forgive me, who's enforcing the right for these children to have a childhood and making sure that they do get the help they need? Is that your job?
No, they are indeed missing out, and this has come to light through your report today with the very young age of this themselves. So I want to find out more, and the research that Honeypot done, which is very welcome, I want to look at taking around the country to see if this is the case in other parts of the country. Certainly it's something which I'm grateful to being brought to my attention and want to focus on over coming months.
Anne Longfield, thank you for joining us.